What is up, fanboys and fangirls? Haha.
Wrong.
I'm so used to saying it these days. What's up, wrestling fans? Obviously, welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It is time for the live mailbag Q&A for quarter one of 2021. It is a historic day in this country and everywhere, because we're doing another mailbag. That's what's happening. Nothing else is happening today, right?
Nah.
I mean, I heard someone's moving, but other than that, there's not really too much else.
Yeah, that's no big deal. I think a Hall of Famer moved or something.
Yeah, that's going to be the Hall of Fame discussion for today. Obviously,
Hall
if
of
you
Famer
were,
changes house.
it's maybe we could get some in your house type stuff here. Maybe we could get Legends House. We're just gonna start doing all that stuff today. I can see Ben's in the chat. He just says hello, happy fuck Trump Day. If you're not joining us live and you're listening to this afterward, we're sorry we couldn't get you here, but we're hoping that throughout this podcast, more and more people are able to join us live. And if you were not able to send us mailbag questions ahead of time or join us live, then remember, everybody, that the mailbag's coming around again in quarter two. So start sending in your mailbag questions whenever you want to, and I'll backlog them the way that we backlogged a lot of these other things. Obviously, if you don't know what the mailbag's about, it's just a Q&A. It's just us for, just kind of pick our brains about stuff. Gives you a chance to ask us questions about whatever it is. It could be wrestling related. It doesn't have to be. In the past, we've talked a lot about food. We've talked a lot about a lot of things. Let's just put it that way. And I see that Guest Five's in the chat. I see Peter's in the chat. We got a couple people filing in here and there. So that's good to see everybody. How's everybody doing? Make sure you chat it up in the live chat, which should be replayable afterward, hopefully, if I set up things correctly. I'm on a new setup right now, so maybe things sound a little bit different. If they are, let me know. Tell me if you can't hear anybody or if we're really low or whatever it might be. I think that it's pretty much all set up the right way, though. I know that these guys can hear me right. I know that I can hear them right. So at least we got that going on right now.
Yeah.
We got super chats available if anybody wants to take part of that. We got the typical stuff here. Obviously, you should be subscribing to the channel if you're listening to this at any point for any reason. Subscribe. Ring that little notification bell, hit the applause button, hit the share button, hit the like button, hit the join button, hit the Patreon up with whatever donations you want to be a part of there. There's the mailbag priority tier if you want to get your mailbag questions answered on a month that we don't have the mailbag like this. There's the Pick Your Poison tier. There's the Dark Casts. There's the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble. Look at that. I'm out of all my plugs. Good. Get that out of the way before we bog down this whole thing with that. Dallas is in the chat. Grim's in the chat. Marin's in the chat. What's up, everybody? Mailbag. We got some mailbag questions already submitted to us, so let's get into mailbag questions. Let's start with, I think this is the oldest one. This is from December 2nd, from the last mailbag that we had done, from Marco. We got a couple here. Which modern day match would you love if you were a kid?
Okay, so
the
mindset of us being a kid at this point.
So maybe it's saying, like, what's a match that you didn't really care for, but if you were a kid, you would have just loved it. I think all of the cinematic stuff probably hits different when you're a kid. Like, it's funny, Dana Brooke slipped and fell and she hit her head and she's gone. Like, that probably hits different when you're a kid.
Every single one of the cinematic ones I would like more as a kid, for sure. Like the Wyatt Swamp fight, I would probably think is like the coolest thing ever, and I really didn't like it at all the way that it is now. But I'd also say I would even more, because it doesn't have to necessarily be one that you didn't like. I would absolutely love the 2020 Royal Rumble for the men's. Because I would buy even more into the whole, like, McIntyre saved us type of thing,
Yeah, I think, like I said, cinematic matches, I think Money in the Bank would have hit a lot better for like a kid audience than, because that was goofy as fuck, like the food fight in the middle of everything and like Vincent Mann being interrupted and all this other stuff. All that stuff is really goofy, and I think kids would have enjoyed that. It's a shame that WWE's audience skews towards like over 60s, so it doesn't really apply as much. It almost makes you feel like you have to imagine that going back to the 1990s, if we were the age we are now in the 1990s, would we have just thought the Undertaker is a load of shit?
If like we watch just the way that he is now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, it's like the idea of like the Undertaker debuting as this like zombie type character. I mean, essentially, if we were like in our 20s and 30s when a character like him debuted, surely we'd react to it in the same way that a lot of people react to the Fiend now.
Oh yeah, it would
Maybe.
have been bad. But I think he's one of the few characters who could have managed to earn people's respect anyway. Yes.
I don't know. I mean, if we were in our 20s or 30s now versus 20s and 30s back then, because 20 and 30-year-olds back then loved Undertaker too. So I think it's more time frame necessarily rather than adults.
Maybe.
That's another question we got here. Let me move this off my screen so I can read it a little bit better. I had this on a completely different screen and I'm like, I can barely read this. If you could only have food cold or hot, which would it be?
Hot.
That's tough because I immediately think both has lots of problems. Like hot cereal would be terrible. But then again, cold pasta just doesn't hit the same.
I don't mind cold pasta. I sometimes eat that for like lunch and stuff like that. Like just if you're buying it from a supermarket or something and you just want to eat it quickly. I don't mind cold pasta. Yeah, I would definitely go on the cold side of things. I'm more of a prone to someone who just enjoys eating like just colder foods in general. Like I can get away with eating a couple of sandwiches for dinner rather than like a more substantial meal every now and again.
I definitely have had my fair share of sandwiches for dinner, and I think you can have certain foods cold, like pizza, but ultimately, like I wouldn't want a cold steak. You know, I'd want that hot. I think you're likely better eating it hot than you are cold.
The more I think about it, the more I think I'd go hot because there aren't as many things that are cold that I would eat. So outside of like, I mean, you can't have like a drink with ice in it if it's hot. I mean, oh god, what was that movie where the character's like, oh, I got the answer for all this, hot ice. It's one of those like Little Big League or something. Is it Rookie of the Year?
I think it is.
I think it's Rookie of the Year. It's Daniel Stern. Drop a comment below if you remember. Funny movie. Yeah, I think okay, good. I want to watch these old 90s movies again and just feel comforted. Drop a comment below as well and tell us your answers to these questions too. Would you rather have food cold or hot? What match do you think you would love as a kid? Any of the other questions that we talk about, anything else, just chat it up in the live chat, chat it up in the comments below too. Let's see, another one from Marco here. Which aspect does wrestling do better than other entertainment?
Stage fighting. Next.
I was going to say soap opera for men, but at the same time, I don't know, because just regular movies in general, they count.
Well, it's just one of these things that a lot of people say that it's that big expression that wrestling or WWE in particular is like a variety show. It's not really. It should just be a show about people fighting for championships in like wrestling matches. That's kind of what you should go to watch a wrestling show for. Because if you're going into a show wanting to see comedy or romance or massive drama or huge arcing storylines, you're better off watching TV shows or movies for that, really.
Yeah.
But wrestling tries to be everything for everyone. I don't think it does any of those mediums anyway better, other than the fact of choreographed fighting, which is what wrestling is. So it does that a lot better than most movies do.
I think it does, like, spectacle and presentation. There's something to be said for like wrestling entrances that no other form of entertainment can match.
Yeah, I'm blanking on this one. I don't really know. It's anything I can think of is sort of
What
like
about toilet humor? It does toilet humor better than anyone. Any other
No.
thing.
There's like SNL does toilet humor pretty well.
yeah, I don't like the toilet humor in WWE and pro wrestling in general. So,
in terms of the thing that it's like unique about it, maybe not so much great. I don't know any other form of medium of entertainment that has such a fractious relationship with its own fan base. And not so much a fractious relationship, such an openly fractious relationship in the fact that they will openly say that the fans are stupid and the fans don't know what they want and stuff like that as a means of trying to, I don't know, and still expecting them to tune in and buy their stuff going forward. I don't know many other forms of either entertainment or anything like that that wants to have such a contentious relationship with its own audience.
So the aspect that it does better than anything else is alienate its fan base. That's true.
I mean, it's close between that and Star Wars nowadays, but I think they still have the heat in the WWE right now.
If they book WWE the way that they booked these sequel trilogy, then we'd get what we get for WWE these days. That makes sense.
And I saw them in Guest 5 saying deluded old men being in charge. No, there's still the presidency for that as well, so you can't really have that as well.
Peter says best at surprises like the Royal Rumbles. They are still good with some surprises. We got to give them credit for that. Pro wrestling still can pop you every once in a while. And like a lot of TV shows and whatever, you kind of see what's happening.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's not really ever going to be too surprising to be like, you're watching an average baseball game. Very rarely does it seem like anybody's ever like, oh my God, did you see like that play that person made? That was insane. Or like this huge upset happened and it's just this crazy, everybody's talking about it. Whereas if Jay White pops up at the Royal Rumble, people are going to be like, what? So they're good for that.
Yeah, well, WWE has kind of the advantage in that sense in the fact that they can actually script this thing happening, whereas in other sports, you kind of have to just hope that it happens.
Well, even just TV shows in general that can write these things, it's very rare that, at the very least for the TV shows that I watch or whatever, that I'm ever just like, oh my God, they're actually doing that. And usually it's because I'm sort of like, oh God, they decided to do this. Well, what a waste or whatever. But I still remember, for instance, one of the only times I've ever been genuinely just purely stunned into silence on a television show was Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, where they kill off this one main character with just a gunshot to the head in the middle of a scene. Just, shot him. And it was just like, wait, what? There's no build up. There's no slow motion. There's no, someone's going to die on this episode. It's just, oh no, he's dead. Because people just get shot the way that everybody else gets shot. Like, I mean, we've been watching these Bond movies. Bond casually just shoots somebody and that's the end of them. And because they're random mooks, who cares? But it's like, if you treat a regular character like that, it's jarring. And not many TV shows can do that. But pro wrestling, of course, you can get lots of shocks on each particular episode. Some bad, some good. Sometimes you're just like, oh my God, why are they doing this? This is the most shocking thing in the world. Let's go with Marco's other question here. What do you all think of WWE introducing VR viewing for the main shows? Maybe like a feature on the network. I am not a VR person. I would never take part in it.
It would have to be better than their Thunderdome. I was hoping their Thunderdome would be some kind of a VR experience, and instead it's just literally the USA feed. Stephanie just said she's not giving up on VR, so you're onto something there. We might see it in the future. So there's that.
Yeah, I think it's something they have to end up exploring eventually, just because it is so, as it gets more refined and a better technology, it just makes sense that a lot of people want to have the live experience of wrestling, but don't actually want to pay for a ticket or travel or deal with the concessions or all this other stuff of actually going and being around other people. So I'm surprised they haven't already gone further ahead with the idea of putting on shows with like virtual headsets and stuff like that, where people can pretend to be in the audience. Because WWE is usually, or historically, has usually been quite ahead of the curve sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. Like tout was a bad way of doing it, but getting ahead of the game into the social media and Twitter and stuff like that has proved to be a real benefit for them. So I'm surprised they haven't tried doing that yet.
VR is one of those things that if people can get VR right, then that's going to be like a staying thing. But we've had VR in different varieties for a couple decades now, if you really think about it. And Guest 5 in the chat brings it up. He says VR is the new 3D. It's an annoying gimmick that'll fade. 3D is another thing that's like that too, because I mean, you go back in the 70s, they had like 3D type movies, and 3D became this big thing around like the time that the Transformers movies came out, and every friggin' movie was 3D. And WWE starts incorporating 3D elements, and I hate the 3D stuff. So the idea of the VR thing sticking around isn't a guarantee, but it's different than 3D, I think, because once you get past the point of 3D being like, oh, look at that, it's kind of towards me, I get it. VR, at the very least, if it makes you feel like you're there, I could see VR being a staying point as far as like if you buy the VR pass and you can't go to a WWE show, well, it feels like you're closer to the action. Maybe they set up a couple little cameras here and there and people can all get the same camera feed, or I don't know what they would necessarily do with how that would work, but I think that it'll eventually get to a point where people do VR on a regular basis. I don't think it's anytime soon. We're talking like 20 years from now. And Ben says, my phone just randomly left the live stream and went to an episode of Dance Moms. Tony has never sounded camper. Well, I mean, you're spoiling the end of this episode here. Let's go to Amy. She has 4 questions for us. Here's an interesting first one to kick off Amy's questions. Whose hate fuck movie is making more money? Ciampa and Gargano or Orton and Cena?
Well,
it's Orton and Cena.
Yeah, well, probably Orton and Cena because they're on the blockbuster stage. So.
Yeah,
and it's like the Ciampa Gargano is like the indie, like the indie art house movie film, version of it. Yeah.
It's like I kind of feel like the Orton and Cena reference though might be a bit dated. Like I feel like we're safely at the point where it's been over half a decade since they've faced, right?
When was their last match? Was their last match the one where it was the double titles?
The last one I remember.
No, they've had matches since then. I think they've probably had just a random match on Smackdown or something like that when they were both on there for a little while.
Well, still, I feel like we are safely out of that era, but of course that one's making more money because listen, it's the stars.
Also, is Orton and Cena really a hate fuck thing? Because it's not like they were ever an established tag team.
Well, they had that one instance where they seemed like they were back to being like buds again. I forget when that was, but like there's always that mutual like respect kind of thing.
Yeah, but it is different with Ciampa and Gargano.
I think Ciampa and Gargano tell the story better.
Well, yeah, but they were tag team champions. And then after they feuded, they came back and they formed an actual tag team again. So it feels like the Cena and Orton thing is a bit more a stretch for me than that.
The real question is, feud. Who's done the hate fuck story better, Ciampa and Gargano or Michaels and Hunter?
Who's done it better? I'd say Gargano and Ciampa, who did it in more blockbuster ways. Michaels and Triple H.
That's fair.
Because they didn't go back and forth in it, did they? They started as friends, and then they became enemies, and then they were friends again, and that was it.
Right. Now, granted, that's over a period of 10 years.
True. But a lot of those years, Michaels wasn't even available to do anything. So
I'm looking on Cage Match right now. The last matches that Orton and Cena had together were live Road to WrestleMania tour matches of John Cena and Luke Harper against Wyatt and Orton. February of 2017.
Wow.
The last match they actually had, like just Orton and Cena, was Cena retaining the WWE title over Orton on a live show in February 2017, and he beat him also the week prior on Smackdown. So they had a 12-minute match on Smackdown in 2017 February, and that's the last
time they ever fought together.
That's pretty inconsequential at that point. Now, if you incorporate Candice LeRae into the Ciampa and Gargano thing, maybe that makes more money. I don't know. It's because, you had more people.
It always makes it better.
Well, sometimes, I don't know. We'll see. Question number 2 from Amy. Do you think NXT has the best women's division in the world?
Yeah.
They're pretty much, at this point for me, from what I see, at the very least.
Let me clarify. Barring any specialty promotion in Japan, like a Stardom, NXT's got it covered in North America, and I will not hear anything to the contrary. Maybe, and this is one of the only places where you can say this, probably the runner-up is Impact, and, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I don't know if we could really be the authorities of saying who's got the best women's wrestling in the world when we're not, obviously, we can't watch all of it that's going on. I think you're hard-pressed to find better just as an overall package as something like a Stardom or a Tokyo Joshi Pro, just because the whole show is built around women's wrestlers. So they've got their roster's even deeper than the NXT roster is. And the NXT roster is pretty deep, but in terms of just star power and presentation and the way they've been built up, I think the last, I'd say 5 or so years of NXT in particular have been very strong for the women's division.
So let's go ahead. Sorry.
As I say, I think it's extended upwards into the main roster though as well. I think it's kind of hard to say like the best women's roster is NXT. It's really all of WWE incorporating NXT as well.
And I know that bothers some, but honestly, it's just a fact. Like at this point, WWE is doing wonders for women's wrestling, and they still have a long ways to go. But when you talk about a company like AEW who are still just treading water with their women's division, it's really rough. But I want to talk about this because NXT just signed 3 women.
Yeah, I don't know what the whole setup is for this. One of them's Priscilla Kelly, right?
Correct.
She's Gigi something?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up here because they're in the female Dusty Classic.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they're gonna do with her because her gimmick would not work in WWE.
They paired her with Elena Black, who's gonna be known as Cora Jade. And
who's Elena Black?
So, the only thing that I know about Elena Black, sorry, it's some of the stuff that obviously I've seen a little bit of stuff on the indies, but more recently she's been in a Twitter war with Joey Janela.
Oh, so for Tony, real quick, Elena Black's been on a lot of episodes of Dark. She's 19. Well, she was written as 19 in November, so at most she's 20. She's young, and
so she's on AEW Dark. Then I've definitely seen her because I've watched every freaking episode of that show.
And she's good. She's really good, and I think the pairing of her and Priscilla Kelly works. They got that kind of like, I don't want to call it a goth aesthetic, but I'm gonna call it a goth aesthetic. Like they got that going on. I think they should at least win their first round match. Oh, never mind, it's against India Candice, so that won't happen.
Yeah.
But they're good, and it's exciting that they signed and that they're going to be presented on TV right off the bat.
Oh, okay. I looked her up. She's the one with that carries the stupid little coffin to the ring. Oh, I hate that little gimmick.
Well, get used to it.
Because it's awkward. I'm holding this thing. Look at this thing I'm holding. There's like 3 people on AEW Dark that do that. There's the one of them, Danny Jordan, I think, who carries the Mean Girls book or something, and like the Burn book is what she calls it. Yeah, it's just dumb.
She's literally doing Mean Girls. I think that's fine. But for Cora Jade and Gigi Dolan, I'm gonna have a hard time with Priscilla Kelly's new name. I'll get used to it though. I think great pairing, great signings. Lacey Ryan, I know nothing about, who will be tagging with Marina Shafir. And according to Fightful Select, that's because Jessamine Duke is basically just working full time on Up Up Down Down.
She's just not going to wrestle.
But that's what it's looking like right now.
What a waste.
It is what it is.
They bring the 4 horsewomen in. They go, nah, we're going to wait to do the 4 horsewomen match. And then you go, yeah, you're going to wait the way that you did with Sting and Undertaker, aren't you? They had the 4 horsewomen against the 4 horsewomen. And they said, nah. What a waste.
They thought, in fairness to them, and WWE's made this mistake a lot recently, they thought they would have more time.
Oh, so they should have learned from their previous mistakes, you know?
And I like these signings, though. I'm always excited when new talent comes in. And these are 2 very good talents to sign when the bidding war is heating up. Also, regarding the Joey Janela stuff, I don't know what's going on there, but does Joey come off like a dick or what?
I mean, it's kind of hard for him not to at this point, really. I mean, she called him out on so many things, so point blank, and his response was just to be very petulant. Yeah, very petulant, and yeah. So she was basically just calling him out the fact that he used to be like the king of the indies, and now he's just a jobber in AEW, and he's just riding Sonny Kiss's coattails now, essentially.
So it started.
They showed that clip on a video on Twitter of him falling over, like basically during Sonny Kiss's entrance, because like he was just astounded at how great Sonny Kiss looked. And Excalibur says on commentary that's the best bump that Joey Janela's ever taken. Just like the idea that he's constantly being ridiculed.
Playful though, like because she even said, "I always considered him a friend." Like. I
was just trying to angle for a match.
Yeah,
and he took it because obviously he's taking it personally because, and again, I don't know the guy, so I can't say for certain, but it seems by his reaction that he knows that he's being wasted in AEW, and he knows that he's kind of sunk his reputation by being there.
He flat out said, like, "I'm done with wrestling this year," but I just don't understand why, like, being Joey Janela, who's typically this guy who stands up for, everything progressive and this and that, he just came across kind of misogynistic and just super bitter. Like, this one tweet even says, in response to an Alley Cat show being signed for that 24-hour stream, "Wow, is this the first ever GCW lady show? I'm such a strong advocate for women's wrestling between my groundbreaking angle at Spring Break 2 years ago and my 5-star intergender matches. I feel like this wouldn't be possible without me. Go play nice, Elena Black." It's like, what? Why is he being a dick?
So I didn't know anything about this whole Twitter feud that was going on at all. But did this just start like the other day? Because it looks like it's January 18th.
Yeah, this was just the other day.
Yeah.
Huh. So I wonder what sparked all that. Was that a matter of like her signing and then people finding out and then people being like, "Oh, fuck you for going to WWE," or like something?
Well, no, it's about her being on an indie show at some point, this GCW show, which I assume is coming up.
Yeah.
So she signed with WWE, but she's also going to be working indie soon.
So maybe it's like the last call kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe her last like few stuff before she signs full time.
It does say here, bottom line is this is her tweet. Bottom line is this: Joey Janela is so bitter and pathetic that he couldn't take a little back and forth play on Twitter and got real life hurt. Dragging it out online so he can make the dirt sheets is his only way to try and stay relevant. I'll take a match with someone worth my time. I mean, that's kind of.
I want to believe that's a fucking angle, just because I don't want to believe that Joey Janela is this bitter already. But it is what it is, I guess.
I tell you what, though, I'm not. I'm excited for new people to be brought into NXT, but looking at this bracket now for the women's Dusty Cup, very underwhelming. I'm not into this tournament anymore, basically, because it's like, oh wait, you got Martinez and Storm making no sense as a tag team, and they're gonna probably beat Team Ninja, and then like what are we getting here? Where are we going?
Shotzi and Ember.
Yeah, it's going to be
Candice
Shotzi and Ember
Amy.
versus Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, the final, probably.
Yeah.
I would hope so, but I'm more
put
excited
Candice
to
and
see
Amy
Jessie
towards the
Camilla
end.
than anything else, just because we barely ever see her.
Well, she's teaming with Aaliyah, so you're not going to see much of her beyond that point anyway. So
Yeah, if
they're
she wa-
losing. I mean, but at least it'll be
I'm
like, oh look,
surprised
Jessie
they're
Camilla gets a
against
match
the
in 2021.
Because I would think the Robert Stone brand would be the heels, so I'd put them against Catanzaro and Caden Carter.
what's the issue that all of them are basically heels?
Yeah, they kind
I
of
mean,
are.
at least 5 of the teams are heels in this bracket.
Well,
So
Lerae and Hartwell are.
Yeah.
Dolan and Jade. I mean, I
we
guess
don't
they
know,
can
but
be
we
brought
assume they're
in.
going to be babyface, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're gonna just be default baby faces. But if they're doing the whole dark and mysterious and goth kind of thing, you would think it would lean itself more towards heel. Blackheart and Moon are obviously baby faces. Shafir is. What is she doing here? Yeah, that's the last time we saw her. I mean, Zoe Stark. They're playing heel for that one for sure. So I mean, I guess Aaliyah and Camilla are just sort of your
They're
heels,
full
but
baby
you're
faces because they're
they're
goofy.
Ever
They're the
Eyes.
goofy heels. Yeah, they're the goofy heels, the ones that have no chance. So because they're a jobber heel team, it means they're going to be default baby faces for a team that's actually like presented well.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll pay attention to that. But at the very least, it's positives that they got more people in there, and the more people that they have options for, the more that women's division can keep growing and be better and better and better. Let's go to question number 3 from Amy here. What would you name the best abs in wrestling of all time? John Morrison.
Morrison, Finn Balor's up there, but it's probably just thinking the man bedazzled his abs. It's probably John Morrison.
I'd say Neville's high up there, or Pac is up high up there.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And I think Omega, when he was in New Japan, was high up there as well.
As far as the women goes, maybe Sasha right now.
Yeah, Sasha's got great abs.
Yeah.
I think Becky, again, maybe a bit earlier on, was like very good in that region as well. Trying to think. Is there anyone else that really stands out?
How's Flair?
My mind.
How's Flair's abs? Charlotte,
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah. I don't
That
think
was
it's
for Tony.
Yeah, it's funny enough. I was thinking Ric Flair. I'm like, did Ric Flair have like abs back in the day? I don't remember that.
it's not something that I like strictly think about too much, but I assume Flair's abs are fine.
In the chat, we
I
got.
don't think it doesn't stand out enough.
Ben says, "Can we just give Raquel the Dusty Cup now?" Yeah, they
Yeah,
better.
no
I
problem.
mean,
No, I want to give her the fucking belt.
I mean, I want Dakota to have it as well.
Yeah,
that was great.
Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. If they don't win that, something's wrong. That's
Yeah, they
for
should
sure.
win the Dusty Cup and then win the tag team titles. That's
I'm waiting
essentially how it should go.
for Ben's reaction to my compliment on Sasha Banks, by the way, too.
Yeah, exactly. Peter asked earlier, do you think the Dusty Cup should be all 3 brands due to a lack of women?
Yeah, well, they got around that.
Wouldn't hurt.
So
It wouldn't have hurted.
You figure they could have incorporated the Riot Squad. They could have brought in. I don't know if you're really counting. Like, they're seemingly doing something now with Tamina and Natalia. Like, they don't know what they're doing with that. I don't know. That's what the answer is. You got. What's that?
You got it. I was just saying that Ben's comment, and he says Dakota is to Raquel what Bailey is to Sasha, in my opinion. What the better wrestler? The better wrestler carrying around a lug in the ring just until she gets over.
I don't fully agree with it, but at the same time, I'm waiting to see Ben's response. Guess why it says Vader for the best apps.
Vader always had great abs. I think.
He's probably got more of them.
Amy's last question here: who would you send to the sun first, Dolph Ziggler or Natalia? I think I know Callum's answer to this one.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's gotta be Dolph. Come on, Dolph belongs there. That's some of those awful fake tans that he's had in the past. He belongs there.
Yeah, you guys know I love Dolph. Dolph was my guy for a long time, but he doesn't even seem like he cares anymore. At least I get the feeling Natty still cares.
So I don't advocate for throwing either of them into the sun. I just want to point that out there just straight away.
Oh.
But if there was like a gun to my head and I had no choice, then yeah, Dolph is gone.
Now I'm having flashbacks to that Rugrats episode with the whole moment in the sun type thing.
I was thinking which one of those two could get out of an airplane window easier than Goldfinger. That's honestly what came to my mind.
You got out there pretty easily, so.
Yeah, true.
Stay tuned, everybody, for if you're interested in those the Bond things. We're watching all the Bond movies, if you don't know, and I've seen them all a million times. But these guys are watching some of them for the first time, some of them rewatching, depending on. Yeah, we haven't gotten to the point yet that you've rewatched any of them, right? These were all brand new ones.
Yeah.
So we've gone through Goldfinger. This week we're gonna at some point knock out Thunderball, but they're staggered releases. I don't even know if episode 001 has come out yet or 000, but coming soon. Actually, no, that's right. The first episode's coming up on the 22nd. It's what I've got it scheduled for. Friday mornings are what I'm scheduling them for, just so people have like the weekend if they want to watch the movie or check things out or something. But a review to a kill is happening on Fanboys Anonymous. That's our running Bond retrospective. And if you're into the Bond films and you want to check that out, go to fanboysanonymous.com and subscribe to the channels and ring that little notification bell there as well. So that way, when these videos get posted, you'll know about them. We're going to have, I'm assuming, lots more Bond references here and there. So you might want to catch up and get the jokes because the Goldfinger thing is pretty funny. Let's see. People cared about Dolph at one point. Nobody cared about Natalya, Ben says.
I fundamentally disagree with that. I think Natalya has her diehard supporters. I think it's easier now to crap on Natalya for the same reason it's easier to crap on Dolph. At some point, they just look like long-term losers and nobody cares.
I know that I, at least at one point, really thought that Natalya was going to be like the thing in wrestling. And it never really happened. Like, she's always been good, but she's never been like, I mean, Charlotte came in and was immediately, within 1 year, she accomplished more on that level than Natty did. So it's kind of a shame.
I feel like that's unfair, though, because that's basically because they were pushing women and the idea of women athletes. Because up until that point, they weren't pushing Natalya because they didn't care about their women's division. They were like, hey, why don't you fart?
It's true. It's hard to get into that character if she's just parading around the Great Khali and whatever. Ben says, I think that there's an argument for Natalya to be the worst promo in modern history.
I mean, she's teaming with Tamina right now, so I think that's already the one person.
She's not great. Like, I'll give you that.
She's never been great.
But there is worse. Yeah, Tamina's never cut a good promo, if I remember correctly.
No. I don't know if Natalya has, but I know that Natalya's cut some that are at least bearable.
I don't know that Natalya's been given many chances to cut a meaningful promo.
I mean, if Natty cuts a 3 out of 10 promo, it's better than Tamina's 1 out of 10. Put it that way.
I think you're very generous with the 1 there.
It's hard to...
She uses words. That's the one.
Yeah, it's hard to compare that versus some of the other ones where they just literally they can't say the words.
Nia Jax said boobs on her back. I think we're being a little harsh on Tamina here.
Yay, my fiance.
She's not like most promos.
Oh, hey, Caroline.
She says hello. Let's go to Howard's question. This was from January 11th is when he submitted
We're going back
this.
in time here, are we?
What's that?
Are we going back
always
in time?
the one for the vintage questions, the vintage like wrestling stuff.
Yes, we are. Speaking of foreign characters, why does it seem that whenever a Chinese or Japanese man or woman comes into WWE, they're given a stupid gimmick such as Kai and Tai in 1998, or Kenzo Suzuki in 2004, or Io Shirai with the Japanese Pirate, Shinsuke Nakamura, etc.? They have so much talent, yet what they're given is embarrassing on TV. Would WWE be better off without being giving these men and women these gimmicks? Yes.
Well,
I just want to
But-
clarify real quick. It's Kairi Sane that was given the pirate gimmick, and that wasn't from the company. That was just something she likes to do. She thought it was cute. She had the women's
liked it.
championship in a treasure chest. I thought that
Yeah.
was adorable.
Yeah, it's because she has a sailing background. That's why
Yeah,
she did Sky Pirate. That's why she did the pirate thing.
Kyrie, no problem at all with the Kyrie stuff, but it is a little. I mean, they don't do it as much anymore, but they very much used to just be like, "Oh, you are insert ethnicity. Here are your stereotypes you need to follow." You know?
So this is what happens when a company is run by a senile white man, and that's essentially what. But nowadays, it is very much. I mean, I wouldn't say Shinsuke Nakamura's gimmick is in any way racially motivated. I mean, I guess it's culturally relevant because you don't want to just wipe away the culture and just treat him like anyone else. But yeah, it's not like that's overtly like. I mean, I love the little bits where he did when the feud with AJ Styles, where he said the no speak English and stuff
I thought
like
that was
It's
hilarious.
like,
That's the best
it's
he's ever done.
yeah. I don't think you should wipe that stuff away, but stuff like the kind of like the Indeed thing where they're just talking in subtitles and say all the other stuff afterwards.
Okay, that's insensitive, yeah, but
The Kenzo
that's
Suzuki
funny to me.
I mean, the Kenzo Suzuki thing, it could have been even worse if they went with the original name for him, which was Hirohito. You know, the Japanese emperor that was battled people in World War II.
I'll
Like,
have you
yeah,
know
that
that he
was-
loved America.
Yeah,
Now
But yeah, they've done a lot.
Go ahead.
I would say they've done a lot worse than a lot of their Asian characters in terms of that regard.
I do think that there's an opportunity for people to lampshade these kind of things, or lampoon these things, or another word that would start with lamp, I guess. I just realized I just did that. It is, you gotta tread that line of like, well, where do you go from parody and funny to just kind of racist?
Mm.
And if they want to play into a character in some fashion, like, I mean, they went with Funaki, and Funaki in 2020, 2021, you know, different perspectives. It's not the most PC type of character, but at the same time, once you get past that point of just being like, all right, this is absolutely absurd, and they did Kung Funaki, I was like, all right, well, now you're making fun of
Yeah.
yourselves, and now it's okay, kind of, like, because it's not meant to be taken as like, this is what we really think. It's just flat out dumb. And if he's having fun and everybody's having fun or whatever, then it's like, all right, well, whatever. But when you have characters come in and it's like, oh, you are from Samoa, so you're also a savage, like that kind of thing, that you're like, all right, you have 20 different savage type characters. I wonder what the problem is here, you know? That's, I think, where things get a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I think that the Japanese characters in general, I mean, I'm not saying they haven't been treated insensitively from time to time and stuff like that, especially with the whole people like Tajiri and stuff like that, when nobody can understand what they're saying, and that's kind of the punchline of every scene they're involved in is the fact that we can't understand what you're saying. That's taking it a little bit too far. The choppy your PP and stuff like that is very much it's going a little bit too close to the bone. But I mean,
though?
We're going way too close to the bone, unfortunately. unless the bone shrinks, in which case it's fine. But
how did they get out of that again?
He said that his little soldier shrunk up at the right opportunity to avoid the sword strike.
So it's literally just they missed one swipe and then went, all right, well, I guess
the
we're
lights
not gonna...
went out.
It's just, God, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Even back then, as a kid, I was just like, this is really stupid. Why am I watching this? You know?
As a 5-year-old, I thought choppy choppy your pee-pee was a funny statement. That was good.
You know, they're still doing the thing now of isn't it funny that they're speaking another language and we can't understand them?
I know.
They did that recently with Asuka.
Yeah, I mean they do it with like Akira Tozawa occasionally and stuff like that as well. It's just that you just can't break these habits. Eventually, it's just the idea of they speak a different language, then that must be a source of amusement for us.
Yeah. Then again, though, look at the way that a lot of people find a lot of entertainment these days, where it's just the most baseline thing is you play for lowest common denominator kind of thing.
I mean, that's wrestling fans in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Yep.
Maybe that's something that wrestling's better at, playing to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, it's their
Sadly.
audience.
Let's go to a question here from Julian. Is there any website or blog you know of that follows televised shows or pay-per-views and translates what wrestlers or superstars are speaking in a foreign language or saying? It's kind of based off of, I guess, just what we were talking about. Not that I'm aware of, but if that would be out there, I'm sure that could be a resource that would be kind of interesting. I am certainly not going to be doing that on Smark Out Moment because I can't speak any other languages, so I can't translate anything, but I would be interested to see what would happen, because whenever there is like an Asuka promo and she's cutting a promo in Japanese, I have no idea what she's saying, so I'd like to know. I'd like to see somebody else put that out there.
I've seen videos on YouTube where people have taken either promos or clips from an episode of Raw or something like that, where Asuka or Shinsuke Nakamura is speaking in Japanese, and they tell you what they're saying in the side of it as well. I mean, New Japan has something where they've got it's Chris Charlton, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's essentially like a third commentator, but he's also mainly there as a translator. And so whenever they're cutting their promos in Japanese at the end of a show, he's telling us what they're saying in English as well. So obviously there's more of a need for it there because New Japan has a pretty wide American speaking audience. So there's a reason why you would have someone there in that role. I guess they don't see the need for it as much in WWE, because as long as you have the commentators from all the different areas. But as a global organization, you would have thought they might have, I mean, realistically, a lot of their Japanese or like stars that are more comfortably speaking another language, you could just have translators. I don't really see the reason why you wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add there. I think that would be something positive to add.
Yeah, it's like why? I mean, obviously, like, I agree with you that it would be a great resource if there is a blog or like just a YouTube channel dedicated to that out there. But why is WWE letting other people do the legwork for something that they should really be doing themselves?
Well, I mean, look at how many things that I do that WWE doesn't do. Let me put up a graphic when there's no graphic. Let me look at the research for whether Superstar Spectacle is happening when they don't want to say anything about it. Let me, So I'll put it out there then. If you do speak another language and if you can translate what somebody says, if you want to send something into Smark Out Moment, or if you want to be able to post on Smark Out Moment these translation things, I'll put it up on my website if you have the ability to do it. I can't because I don't speak those languages, but fuck it, we'll make Smark Out Moment the home for that. Anybody who's listening right now, if you're a part of it, you want to be a part of it, go ahead, send me an application. Let's see. How's the live chat going on? Fiance's being adorable.
Caroline speaks Brazilian, I assume.
Yes.
But we haven't gotten any
Portuguese.
Portuguese promos.
We got Ty Conti in AEW.
But she hasn't cut any promos in Portuguese.
No, but I'm just waiting for the opportunity to do that, and so you can just get Caroline on that one.
I have gotten her to help me out with pronouncing the different names. Like I knew that it was Ty instead of Tay, a little bit quicker in Cesar Bononi and everything, which they couldn't even figure out the name for. That's a different story.
Top prospect.
Let's see. Let's go.
That was.
It was a future breakout star.
Yeah, for AEW.
Let's go to Peter's questions. For the Smark Out Moment Hall of Fame for this year, do you think we can get future legend Eric Rowan to honor Harper? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, why not?
P.S. If we do have something about Harper, we should put that in first, but I don't know about it. We don't have anything else from Harper, but future legend Eric Rowan, yeah. We'll bookmark that. That'll be I don't know when we're gonna do that, because now they just recently had said the whole thing with switch it over with WrestleMania being 2 nights and everything. So I had to readjust the schedule a little bit, but we'll do it at some point, obviously in March. And then, we'll get around to that. Guest 5 says, I'll translate Kaylee Ray if you need it.
Oh.
Harsh.
Yeah. She needs a translator when it comes to those things well, not really, but I'm just being a dick.
You're a dick, yeah.
Yeah. We've firmly established that over the course of 10 years. Another question for Peter here. Do you think that Aaron Solo and Bailey are big fans of the 2012 movie, The 5-Year Engagement, starring Emily Blunt and Jason Segel? Correct me if I'm wrong, but in November they will be engaged for 5 years.
Well, it takes a long time to make history, and you can't rush these things.
I think there's a growing trend towards the permanent engagement status. I mean, obviously, I know you're not following along that trend, Tony.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, but it's just like that. I kind of see the appeal of like, okay, so you're permanently engaged, so you get to have the big proposal, and so that's a really good romantic moment. But then you don't actually have to go through with the whole arranging a wedding. That seems like the ideal circumstances for me.
Gonna Ted Mosby it, just like, oh, I've always wanted to get engaged, and then you'd never go through with the big wedding.
Yeah, exactly. That seems perfect to me.
Nah, screw that. I'm like, I just want to skip to it.
Right through it.
Yeah. Caroline and I are like, all right, well, that's not turning into some 2 or 3 year long engagement thing. We're like, no. Worst comes to worst, if something happens throughout this year with, COVID or whatever like that, then we're going to sign those papers and just be like, all right, we're married, like that kind of thing. 5 years. I mean, if it works for them, it works for them. I don't understand it. I've never understood it, really, because to me, the whole point of the engagement is just to set up the wedding, and that's the thing you're going for, is the marriage. So if you don't want to do the big wedding, I get it. Like, you don't have to do a big wedding. We're certainly not going to do a as big of a wedding as if we could afford something bigger, and we wouldn't really do anything super crazy anyway, because it's not like that. But like, I don't know, if you feel like you want to get engaged to somebody, it's because you want to get married to them, and then why would you not want to marry them? After a while, it's sort of like, well, what are you waiting for? But I don't know the couple. I don't know what their situation's like. So if that's what they like, then that's what they like. Some people don't ever get married, and that's totally cool. It's
a good movie, though.
Never seen it. Don't plan on seeing it, probably.
You should.
I haven't seen 51st Dates either.
Oh, so you didn't get the references in Raw there.
Yeah, I don't plan on watching that. That's not my thing.
It's one of Adam Sandler's better movies because he's not doing the he's not doing a lot of that. So it's one of the better ones.
You mean he's not dating the Swan from Billy Madison or anything in the movie?
Correct.
If Raw didn't kill the Angle, which I hope it did, this is Peter's question, what do you think is the end goal of this Charlotte, Lacey, and Rick story? I'm afraid if it ends in an intergender match at WrestleMania between Charlotte and Rick, I'm not against intergender wrestling, but I am against this match.
I would love if the end game for this is Charlotte Flair decides that she's going to parade around Andrade as male arm candy to upset her father, and this somehow ends with 70-something-year-old Ric Flair in the ring at WrestleMania for an intergender tag match with Lacey Evans and Andrade on their respective sides. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I have no fucking clue why they're doing this. I don't know why they're just like, during the most uncertain times, let's parade Ric Flair out. Because Charlotte is well beyond the point in her career where she needs any ties to Ric Flair. At this point, that Ric Flair is going to be Charlotte's old dad who was maybe a good wrestler at some point. There are some people who will see Ric Flair like that. I don't see that, obviously, but it's just a fact of life. There's a whole new generation of fans who see Ric Flair like that. Why they're doing this, I don't know. why this was the angle that they squashed Lana's thing for, I'm not sure, but here we are.
Well, why are the tag team champions not even interacting with each other on multiple episodes of Raw? They're having matches that are separate singles matches, and they're feuding with other people. Just get rid of the tag titles then.
Tony, they're in an open relationship. They're committed to each other, but via the championships, but they can do their own thing.
We're still on the Bailey one. I don't know what this end game is, but I will say I'm pretty sure I know that they have no end game. Because that seems to be the way that WWE does things now. So there probably isn't any idea of where they're going to go with this, but it's terrible that the tag team titles are just sort of worthless again.
In all seriousness, I do think that the end game here is to bring in Andrade as some sort of point of like, you know, you're old and broken down and trying to hold on to your glory days while I'm over here with this guy and we're living our best life. And it's just a weird way to like, again, get Ric Flair to cry on TV while also introducing Charlotte and Andrade as a pairing on TV.
Does he cry first or bleed?
It depends.
Both at the same time?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Ben points out you're worried about the tag titles when Asuka hasn't defended her title since fucking November. Yeah, they really they have screwed Asuka so much.
60 days. And at this point, the last time she defended her title was against somebody who has not been with the company in that same amount of time. It's going to drive people up the wall the next time that they have to do something where they go, and we're stripping, I don't know, Kevin Owens because he can't defend the title within the mandated 30 days. It's going to drive people fucking insane.
It was the difference with Asuka, the fact that she can defend the title. They're just choosing not to give her title match.
I guess so. It's bad.
How would you book the end game of this whole thing, Callum?
How would I book the ending of this whole thing? Okay, so if you have to go down this route, I imagine the end goal is, do you have to... Okay, this is going to sound way too soap opera, and maybe this is just due to the fact that we've been watching 2002, and so it's going to be a bit ridiculous, but if you're going down this rabbit hole, you might as well go all the way with it. You have Lacey marry Ric Flair on TV.
Does she also do the L Wilson?
No, she doesn't do the L stuff with Charlotte, but it's just you have them get married on TV.
I'm not saying, it's been a while since
you have a big wrestling wedding. Yeah, you have a big wrestling wedding, and you then have Lacey divorcing for the money and stuff like that. Just find some reason to divorce him and get the money because it's Ric Flair, so you can get Ric Flair to do something crazy, like she could set him up with a honey trap or something like that. And then Ric Flair's upset about it, and Lacey kind of just uses that power and momentum that she gets out of that to just lord it over Charlotte and everyone else like that, and it just leads to more animosity between the two of them, which ends in a match over some sort of championship. I just think if you're going to go with this stupid angle, you might as well just have fun with it and do the wedding thing, because the weddings are typically either fun or so bad that they're good.
For what it's worth, I think if this had taken place, 15 years ago, where Ric Flair was still kind of active, I would have liked the gimmick. I liked the idea of Ric Flair portraying the role of sugar daddy. It works for Ric Flair, but he's just too old.
Well, I don't think he's too old to play that part, because we know that like Anna Nicole Smith was with somebody who was like 90 something or whatever. But
I mean, I think he's too old to be on TV and just doing this. Like,
I just hate that this is happening now, and it's happening, leading into WrestleMania, and the tag titles are not a factor in, and that it's going to potentially screw up the whole. What do you do with the women's championship? Because at this point, like, what is Asuka doing?
She's going to lose it to Alexa Bliss, is she?
The whole setup of everything that's happening on Monday Night Raw right now is just, we're spending more time dealing with Lacey Evans and Ric Flair than we are with the two titles that are on that brand. And that is its own problem. So how would I want this to end? next week they just act like it never happened, and we just move on to actually paying attention to doing shit. And it
Well, at least I
sucks because it's
tried.
like, that's no end game for anything. It's just moving on. But they've done that with things that actually were doing well. So, sacrifice it.
Yeah, I know what the end game is that eventually Flair will just stop appearing on TV with Lacey Evans, and Lacey Evans will go back to being in the tag team with Peyton Royce, and then it'll be it.
Hey, whatever happened to Leah Mysterio?
Yeah, when's the last time we've seen those two?
Since before the end of the year.
Maybe the authorities got involved.
God.
Let's see. This kept it up on the chat right now. Charlotte could be devastated, and she takes an early retirement. And Ben just wants Charlotte out of the mix.
I've seen so many takes that she is officially John Cena level of hatred. Like, people hate her presence just because they know that she is the top star.
Well, Ben had sent us a question. Who has done more damage to their respective divisions, Charlotte Flair or Roman Reigns?
Oh, you know what?
Neither.
Fuck that Roman Reigns noise. Like, Roman Reigns got a bad rap for way too long because they were stubborn about it. And I think Roman has proven that he's great.
At the end of the day, they can't do it on their own. Someone has to be booking them to win all of these titles. So it's not like they're just going out there saying, I definitely have to win the championship here tonight, and then just go, okay, let's go along with it. It's they want to position those two as the top people because they just look like the top stars. And Reigns is proving that he is the top star. And Charlotte, I think Charlotte's been overdone. Like, she shouldn't have this many title reigns. She should have maybe, I wouldn't say half, but maybe like a couple shy of what she currently has, and then it would be a bit more palatable. But it's the fact that she just constantly is holding a women's title eventually. I mean, she came back and now she's holding a title belt. Like, I don't know how many months. Like, it's probably less than a year total in the entire time that she's been in WWE TV that she's not been holding a title belt.
Peter also puts out there, he says, am I the only one who isn't the biggest fan of the Tribal Chief? It's the best work Roman's done in years, but it makes him look so weak because he keeps beating people with Jey Uso's help and everything. They could make him a little bit stronger, but at the same time, Tribal Chief's awesome. What was it, Sonny McLeod? Is that the name that they made? Where he's just like, I'm not Sonny McLeod.
I'm not doing that.
Fuck this. No. Paul Heyman, say something stupid, basically, is what it's equivalent of that.
I'm a little worried about it now in the coming weeks, just because it's starting to get overbearing. And what I mean by that is it's going a lot authority-like for me, in that what they're doing with Adam Pearce right now is essentially, they're basically saying that we are more important than the people running this show, which I guess is fine to a degree, but then they're basically, every single thing that happens that goes wrong to them, they then have to beat someone up, and then that person becomes pretty much subservient to them. And that can only go so far until basically you've got half the roster just working for Roman Reigns. And then you've got an NWO situation, and that never works out.
I think they'll be fine.
I think if you find it just a case of how long can you stretch this out for? Because I think it's fine now, but it'll be fine for a good 6 months, maybe even a year if they spread it out properly. But then if it starts going on longer than that, that's when you start going, okay, we need to mix this up a little bit.
I think they'll figure out the next step. I'm confident that they'll get this going. I mean, I'm loving what I'm seeing right now, and at least for Roman Reigns, when it comes to the Charlotte stuff, I'm not. But to answer Ben questions, who's done worse for the division? I mean, neither of them have done. I guess I don't know. Maybe if I had to pick between the two, I'd say Flair.
Yeah, if I have to answer, I'm saying Charlotte Flair, for the reason that she ultimately has kept other people from getting potential spots, where I feel like, okay, they tried without Roman for a while, and they just proved like Roman is the best option.
My issue with Flair in that regard is there are a couple times we can look at in the past where Flair didn't need to be involved in something and she got involved in it anyway. Like, she didn't need to be a part of Becky versus Ronda by any means.
She didn't need to be a part of Becky versus Carmella when they actually turned Becky heel. Now, granted, that worked out okay, but like, she didn't need to. She didn't need to be a part of NXT.
They didn't need to do the thing where Sasha kept dropping it back to Charlotte and everything. Like, Sasha would have been better off if she wouldn't have had 4 title reigns that she dropped it immediately. And it seems like that was mostly because they just wanted to stick it around with Charlotte.
That I thought was good because you were establishing at the time that, you know, these women can trade the belts just like the guys. They're having standout matches just like the guys. It was about establishing, hey, this women's division is must-see TV.
Fair enough. Let's move on here. Peter's other questions. Do you think that Izzy has ruined or damaged her chances of working for WWE? She was on the bump on Tuesday and interviewing Tony Khan 4 days later. Since we're talking about heat, do you think there's any heat on the superstars?
She's a child. Hold on, no. She's a child. Let this child live her life, please. Thank you.
Do you think that there's any heat on the superstars from WWE that worked with Harper's son? Absolutely not.
They're children.
Yeah.
The latter just lost its father. I don't think there's any heat on any of them. And if there is, then the person who feels that way should burn in hell.
Yeah, like they're not going to have any heat on like Adam Cole for pretending to take a pin from Brody Lee Jr. or Izzy worked with the NXT Kids show. Like they like Izzy.
They never released that. Where's that?
I mean, it must have been that much of a train wreck. You know,
we're gonna see it in a Hidden Gems in 5 years. Like, hey,
at some point,
you know how we just signed Izzy? Here's Izzy doing WWE Kids.
But she probably is baked into the system at this point. You know, she wants to be doing this interview type stuff. She's making a name for herself more and more. And just because she interviewed Tony Khan, I don't think that they give a shit.
I think, if anything, that's really good for her. Yeah. I like Izzy. Izzy's cool.
I've never watched any of her interviews or anything. She good?
I'm sure she's just doing a good job. I can't imagine that she's doing anything specifically badly. She's just taking the momentum that she got from being a famous fan in WWE and propelled it into a sort of like mini career for herself.
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that.
You haven't seen that from Angry Miss Girl or anything, so.
Yeah. Absolutely. There should be no heat on her whatsoever for any of this stuff.
If you were to make a mid-card title for the women, what would you name it? Peter says he would name it the Demi-Goddess title. Women's Intercontinental Championship.
I think the Demi-Goddess title is cute, though. Yeah, probably the women's IC title or something to that effect.
Yeah, I can't think of anything distinctive enough to separate it out, maybe.
I know this
maybe
is controversial.
A TV title or something.
You could always just bring back the Divas title, but it's got such a negative connotation around it.
Yeah, I don't think you want to risk doing that just because. I mean, who would want to be part of the quote-unquote Divas division?
Lacey Evans.
I mean, I don't like the Intercontinental title name because I hate the whole divisional, but there is no division type of thing. Like, why is it the United States Championship? Oh, you defend it in the United States,
America.
But you represent anything. Like anybody, you don't have to be an American to win
America,
it.
Tony.
You know, like nothing like the North American Championship or any of that. None of it makes any sense. Unless you specifically say you can only win it based off of a location type thing, like the title is only defended on this soil, or only the people that have this background can fight for this title. Kind of like only 205 Live or under 205 Live, 205 pounds or under can fight for the Cruiserweight title. Then that serves a purpose. But when you get into it's the Intercontinental Championship, what does it mean? Oh, it's between continents. Oh, so it's the United States one. Oh, well, it doesn't really count with Hawaii or whatever. Oh, can you fight for it in Hawaii? Well, yeah. What about Alaska?
Well, it was
yeah.
called the Intercontinental Championship because it was merged the North American and the South American or something like that, right? Don't make me make sense out of this, Tony. It's the fucking Intercontinental title, and it works.
I like the idea more so of how TNA had like the Grand Championship, where it's just another term for like yay. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
like, hey, thumbs up. You know, you can't call it the thumbs up championship, but like, you know, the platinum championship or the I don't know.
Silver. Like the hey, it's the secondary championship. Congratulations, you're second.
I thought you said yakisoba. I'm like, what?
No, that's just what you want to hear because you're hungry.
I am hungry right now. I could totally go for some yakisoba. Yeah, I want to hear some other suggestions. Well, guess what? It's just the Yay Championship. Yeah, maybe we'll go with the Yay Championship if I ever have my own federation or something.
You could do something like the Venus Championship or something like that. Just to take some sort of like famous like mythological woman or something like that and use that as the basis for it.
I like that.
The Joan of Arc belt or something.
Then you could do the intergender thing, and somebody could be like, "That's going to be the Men Are From Mars Championship."
That'd be cool. Cool with that.
Wasn't there a guy in NXT named Mars? Not anymore, but there was. I think he might have been one of the Chinese recruits.
Mars Sullivan.
I gotta look this up because it's gonna bug the shit out of me. NXT Mars Wang. What's his name? We never really got a view of.
Don't worry, I'm sure they trademarked something that they could turn him into.
Yeah, drop a comment. Tell us your thoughts on what you would name a women's mid-card title. Let's go to another one here. Do you think that this Fiend Alexa Bliss can maintain itself outside of the Thunderdome? I feel like when they go back on the road, this isn't going to work for her.
So much shit is going to fall apart when fans come back. People are going to crap all over Riddle. They're going to crap all over things that they wanted to crap all over for the last year and haven't been able to. So much is going to fall apart.
I don't think that will necessarily, though.
I'm kind of looking forward to people coming back into WWE shows, and the first thing you hear is a chant about EW. That'd be like the most hilarious thing to me. But I mean, the Fiend stuff can't work in the same way because they can't do the camera trickery and the edits and stuff like that they're currently doing, where they're in the ring and then not in the ring like immediately afterwards. They're changing costume, all this other stuff, setting fire to a dummy in the ring. Yeah, you can't get away with that outside of the Thunderdome. But I mean, realistically, I don't really want this stuff to continue because I don't like it.
Yeah, so, you beat me to it. I was going to say I'm fine with it now. We're continuing.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of this whole Alexa Fiend thing. I think it's way too overdone and it's way too goofy. So I'm just not enjoying it at all. I mean, it's one of those things like, I know a lot of people say like, oh, Alexa's doing really well in the role. Yeah, she is, but the role's stupid and the character's stupid, and so I don't care that she's doing really well in a stupid character.
And I honestly think that there's no direction.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that as well.
Like, what are we doing with this Orton thing?
He's going to win the Rumble burned because he would win it with no limbs, Tony.
Yeah, I hope they play up that threat and they just chop all his arms and legs off in the fun. And then they're just like, yeah, throw him in there and just like, okay, see how you do there. And then he somehow wins.
He can still do a back body drop, kind of, I guess.
Can you do an RKO without an arm?
You'll find a way.
Hey, he's got a shoulder.
So.
As long as they fall on that. Yeah. That move's never made any sense to begin with. He's the one that takes the brunt of every little bit of it, so... It particularly makes no sense when he has, like, he does an RKO on a table or on the steel steps or something. And he's the one who
goes through.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're jumping on top of that, and the other people are basically slamming you into it, so what the hell is that supposed to hurt? Still not as bad as the Playmaker, though.
And that's the thing that WWE does better than any other form of entertainment. Not make sense.
Yeah, there you go. They're good at something.
I like that we've consistently gone back to that.
Is it upsetting to you is it as upsetting to you as it is to me, meaning Peter, to call Mickie James a legend? She's earned it, no doubt, but I think she's better. She needs a better last run, which is why I'm upset. Yeah,
I think it's upsetting to her too, by the way.
She flat out has been like, this is ridiculous, and she deserves to say that, because look at what they did with her the last time that they brought her back. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, Mickie James is back, I guess. And then they just, showed off Seth Rollins arguing with Samoa Joe, and she lost. And then they're not doing her justice, and it seems more and more likely that somebody is just doing this to be petty or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She does deserve better, though.
Yeah, I don't understand what is exactly what the reason is that if you've got someone who does have a lot of talent, and especially on SmackDown, you've got a decidedly thin women's roster, why you don't use someone who does have ability, who's willing to wrestle, who has a legacy behind her that could be used to put over new talent as well as be positioned prominently as well. Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't use that resource if it's available to you.
I mean, let's think about it this way. What are the aspects of what they're looking for in the women's division? Wrestling talent. Oh, she's got it. She's better than most of the women, and she always has been. Looks. She's one of the arguably best looking women that they've ever had, and she still is gorgeous. So what's the difference there? It's not like she's out of shape and she no longer retains the good looks that she used to have back when she originally signed. No, she looks the same, basically. So can't knock her on that. Shout out, by the way, to Mickie for winning the first ever Sexiest Superstars tournament. Is she able to physically perform? Yep. Is she stuck in a situation where she can't travel? Nope. Is she problematic on like a PR perspective? Like, has she created any kind of, if she was caught at the Capitol or something like that? No, not the case. Is she somebody who could work with younger people and put them over? Yep. Is she a legend that can theoretically at any point win the championship and it would make sense? Yep. So what the hell are you waiting for? Like, she has everything you're looking for, and you've got her as like, well, I guess she'll wear a hat on Legends Night. What?
And talk to Sergeant Slaughter and Tatanka, noted friends first.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. It's such a waste. And eventually they're going to get to a point where she's not going to want to do it anymore. And then they're going to go, it's a shame she didn't have another run. Well, you're the ones controlling that. Give her the run then. You don't have to make her the champion, but use her. Why do we not have like Mickie James versus Bianca Belair? How do we not have Mickie fighting the Riot Squad or whatever? Like, just, I don't know, just do it. It's that simple. It's not that hard. I'm using my phrase again. If Triple H can come back and have another feud with Randy Orton in 2021, Mickie James can come back and wrestle as a regular performer. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that.
And Guest 5 points out, he says Mickie would be the perfect first mid-card champion. Yeah. Give her that mid-card title, have it be established as this. How many times did she win the women's title? 5?
Just 6-time women's champion, I believe.
6 times. So a 6-time women's champion, have her win the mid-card type of title, which they should totally do because they should totally merge the brands. And I know that Rob agrees.
Absolutely. I'm not going to get into it, though.
Merge the brands, have one women's champion that's the world champion and one women's mid-card champion and a tag team championship. The way that you do it with the men's. Do it that way. Peter brings up some records from the Royal Rumble. He says he found some that may be in the chance of being broken. Chris Jericho has the overall time, which, by the way, if you want to check out any of these records or anybody's interested, go to the Royal Rumble stats page on smarkoutmoment.com. I've done far too much work, I guess you could say, figuring out a lot of different statistics and records and trivia. And it's all up there for anybody to check out. But Rey Mysterio is the number 2 person behind Chris Jericho right now for the overall cumulative time on Royal Rumbles. But he's by a considerable enough margin. It's 58 minutes. So I don't think Rey's lasting 58 minutes. But if he wrestles this year and next year, maybe another year after that, yeah, he could do it.
I think he'd need 3 more, yeah.
Yeah. I can see. You never know. Maybe Ray's like, I really want to have a good Rumble this year, and just stays in for an hour.
I mean, theoretically, he could stay in and still not do all that much. We've gotten people in the past that they mostly just lay down. But I'm assuming he's more on the 20-something range, gets eliminated around that time. I'd like to see Dominic pop up in this Royal Rumble, by the way. They haven't confirmed him yet. Have they confirmed
They've
Ray?
confirmed a third of the participants, and no, they haven't confirmed Ray.
Yeah, well, all you have to do is just say you're going to be in the Rumble unless you're Ricochet or Drew Gulak.
Correct.
Yeah, Adam Pearce apparently put out something saying, like, look, the people who are allowed to declare themselves or whatever, it's like, you're not getting far on explaining this, you know? If we want
I
them
do
to, they
appreciate him
can.
trying to attempt to explain the stupidness and illogical nature of WWE's mentality, but...
I mean, there's an easy answer for that, too. If you're a former world champion, you can declare yourself.
But not everybody who's declared.
But Cesaro's declared himself, yeah.
Oh, that's
Jack
right.
Nakamura's declared himself.
Yeah, Cesaro. I didn't think about that.
It's all about the tenure, guys.
I mean, Nakamura, you can argue he won the Royal Rumble. So that makes sense. Cesaro, though, that he breaks the whole thing.
It's tenure.
He won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Of course,
that's right.
Royal Rumble. Yeah.
You know what? They brought it up, actually, on the match with Daniel Bryan. I think it was Cole. It might have been Corey, but I think it was Cole. He had said, you know, Cesaro has experience winning Battle Royals. He won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Daniel Bryan hasn't won anything like that. I was like, you know what? That's a good little thing to bring up. Kudos to them.
Imagine that. They're actually doing their job.
Yeah. Then the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal still doesn't mean anything, but it was brought up a couple years later, so they didn't completely forget about it.
And also, that's probably the only Battle Royal that Cesaro's ever won.
He probably won some house show at some point, but they don't really count. Peter also mentions Baszler and Bianca Belair eliminated 8 women last year, and surprise, surprise, Charlotte has the overall record of most eliminations. Do you see Baszler or Belair eliminating 2 people to break the record? 100%. And he says, of course, Charlotte can eliminate more people.
Well, Charlotte's in the Rumble, so no, she's not going to break the record because Charlotte's going to eliminate at least 5 people, I imagine.
I would assume that Charlotte's going to keep herself in that range, but if Belair wins, she could still beat her by 1 or 2. Kind of depends on how they're going to book that. Because, I mean, who knows who's going to win? But theoretically, you have to eliminate at least one person to win. So we know that if Belair, for instance, or Charlotte were to win, they're going to at least tack one more on. But typically speaking, the winner of the Royal Rumble eliminates at least 3. And the average, if I remember correctly, what I calculated before was 4 for the winner of the Royal Rumble. So if you maybe make Charlotte not have to have the longest time in the Royal Rumble, maybe she doesn't necessarily eliminate a bunch of people, and maybe Belair does. I don't think that Baszler tops that at the very least. If anybody does, it's Belair.
Yeah, and I genuinely think they need to spotlight the fuck out of Bianca, because right now they're just coasting on, hey, but you know she's a super athlete. Isn't that good?
She's Rusev?
Yes, Tony, she's Rusev.
The super
They
athlete?
could do the same thing they could do the same thing they did with Survivor Series, where she just eliminates like 7 people, then throws herself over the top rope.
Yeah.
So I'm double checking my my records right now for some of the other things that are somewhere in the mix here. I don't think that anybody's gonna get the most cumulative eliminations for the men, because Kane right now has the most at 43 or 44, depends on if you count the Isaac Yankem one. And then the next couple in line are Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin, Big Show, and Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is at 32. and he's not in the Royal Rumble. So Triple H
I'd
would
like
be
to
the next
point out
after that.
Kane did all of those things while being burned, so it's looking good for Randy.
Randy is at currently 27, according to my list. So he would need almost 20 to beat Kane's record. So that ain't happening. Depends on how many years he does it, I guess. I don't know. As far as the time goes on some of the other things like that, once we get past Jericho and Rey Mysterio and Triple H, it's then Shawn Michaels, which he's not going to do that. And then it's Randy Orton. He's at 3 hours and 33 minutes and 19 seconds. So he needs an hour and a half, basically, to beat Jericho's time. Don't see that happening anytime soon. And then we're getting way past this list. We're getting Cody Rhodes, John Cena, CM Punk, Steve Austin. Roman Reigns is then next, and he's at 2:44, so he would need 3 hours almost to beat that time. That's not happening either. As far as the longest cumulative time in total Royal Rumbles right now for the women, it's Natalya at 1 hour and 36, and then it's Charlotte, and then Ember Moon. Really? Okay. So
The
Flair
man wrote the stats, and he's still surprised by the stats.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do it once a year. So Natty's at 1 hour and 36. Charlotte's at 1 hour and 16. So if Natty doesn't last longer than what Charlotte lasts, and Charlotte lasts at least 20 minutes, then I'm assuming Charlotte's going to be the longest cumulative time too. So I think that record's going to get beaten. I assume Charlotte's going to be early on and last until the end, if not win. And Natty, well,
Do you think there's a genuine chance that Charlotte wins?
Oh, yeah. Charlotte's my only options at this point right now, I'm thinking, are maybe not necessarily in this order, but Charlotte, Rhea, and Belair.
Yeah, I still think they need to be the final 3 in the ring because they're the only 3 that makes sense.
I'm starting to think that Rhea is going to win, and she's going to beat Asuka and not Charlotte.
Why?
Because they have this thing where they just don't do the thing that would have made sense. And I think that they're going to sacrifice Asuka and have Rhea Ripley show up on Raw as a heel, and Charlotte's going to be the one that's like, I need to beat her because I'm babyface Charlotte.
That's stupid.
Yep, I hate it, but...
Awful.
Guess 5 says, Charlotte and Brock, I'm warning you now.
I've been thinking about Lesnar.
I'm not.
Just, who knows? Tony, if Goldberg wins and Lesnar wins the Rumble, what's your reaction?
Then we're doing a live episode of the post show, and you'll hear me just total Frank Grimes the whole thing.
I'm here for it, actually.
You know?
Just do it. Just to see your reaction. I'm here for Brock Lesnar wins the Rumble.
Let's go to another question from Peter here. Last year, I asked about the Triple Crown and Grand Slam winners. I know about the tag team Triple Crown. I wasn't listening to the website. Take it a step at a time. Do you think that the Viking Raiders will win the Smackdown tag titles? Yeah, at some point.
I got news for you. I haven't thought about the Viking Raiders at all.
It very much
Go ahead.
It very much depend on Hansen's recovery. I say Hansen, I mean, he's Ivar, right?
Yeah, he's the cute one.
Yeah, the cute one. Yeah, it depends on his recovery because it was a serious neck injury that he suffered. So, and he's a big dude, so
it's a shame.
He asks about the New Day or the Usos winning the NXT tag titles. Nope.
Nah, I think that's too far gone for them now.
Yeah.
Never say never, but nah.
On the topic of the Triple Crown Grand Slam, the website also says WWE still has not had the United States title in that thing. I don't know what they do with that. This whole idea of the U.S. title is not the
United
equivalent.
States title's not in there.
It
still counts.
it's not classed as a Triple Crown one. I don't know. Thing.
That's stupid. It's still a fucking mid-card championship. Come on.
It's just, this is one of those things that you gotta question when WWE just doesn't go, yeah, of course it is, or something, because it's like all it takes is one person saying that, and then it changes the thing with that. So there's got to be some reason why they don't want that to be the case, and I don't know. That's so odd to me, because they make a big deal out of the first time ever and the whatever. Every single time they get a chance to, when it comes to the United States Championship, the Intercontinental, whatever, they're always saying things like, oh, you know, tons of Hall of Famers have been United States champion before. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Booker T and all this other kind of, and it's like, all right, so just make it the same level. It's the same thing. Like, there's no difference. The United States title is not the WCW United States title that has no WWE heritage at this point. Just confirm it. Like, put one article up on WWE.com. The writing team can do it. They have the time. They clearly have the time if they're not being tasked to put up the graphics when you announce the things and stuff. So, like, shit, I'll do it. It's up on my site. Take it from mine. Copy and paste. You know what I mean? Like, just, it's weird. I don't get it. The Grand Slam and Triple Crown thing is just odd.
Probably some representative of the bump right now being like, he said it was okay to copy and paste his website. Go ahead, go.
If you, I know I'm connected to Volmeyer, Dan. If you want to, go ahead and do it. You can take anything, especially if you give a shout out to Smark Out Moment for it. Take the records list and say, you know, courtesy of Smark Out Moment. Go ahead and do it. I'll be on the bump. I'm not burning my bridges like Izzy, right? Let's see here. Apparently, Peterhead says that they didn't update Charlotte with the women's tag title thing. Like they're not updating things.
They're lazy.
Yeah. I still think it's weird, by the way, that the website, they don't let the people have pictures of themselves. They all have to pick another, like, a wrestler. So it'll say, like,
Bobby
I don't know.
So-and-so, and it's Ravishing Recruit.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, it is weird.
You know, just like, I don't know, Jane Williams wrote this article, and it's a picture of, I don't know, Bertha Faye or something. Like, we both went old school there, Rick Rude and Bertha Faye. Pretty sure
the Rick Rude one is an actual example of something I've seen. The Bertha Faye.
I don't know where the Bertha Faye came in.
95.
I know I saw somebody recently that they had Dave Mastiff on there, and the writer wasn't massive anything. You know, it wasn't like massive David Williams or something. Let's go to Ben's other questions here. Can Tony say 3 positive things about the Sasha and Bailey feud? It ended.
You dick.
It's no longer happening, and the right person won at the end. There you go. There's 3 positives.
It's Sasha Banks versus Bailey, not who shot Johnny Bravo on Impact, Tony. For God's sake. Say 3 nice things.
Sasha and Bailey both came into their own in some fashion throughout the course of it. They had a good Hell in a Cell match, and let me try to think of a third thing. And it didn't outlive its usefulness after they started this feud. That'll be a rewording of the other thing. It did end, you know. It didn't drag on for 8 months of them feuding after that.
Boy, that's like pulling teeth for you, Tony.
Yeah, it really is, because that feud just, goddamn. Ben says, I feel personally attacked. And the last one from Ben, at least it's sent in ahead of time. Who do you think has done well in the COVID era that would not have done well if fans were still here?
Bailey. There's your answer right there. Bailey has shined so bright in this COVID era, and she's been fantastic. And if fans are still around, she would have never gotten to do that because she would have never been allowed to come into her own because she would have just been yucking it up with the audience and never branching out.
I can think of some examples that I still don't necessarily think did all that well, but they would have done worse. Like, to be honest, and I hate to say this because it shouldn't be the truth, but Asuka wouldn't have been champion as long as she was, because they would have had a chance to change things around, I think. And one of the reasons why people have been booked the way that they've been booked, I think, this past year or so is because they're convenient to be champion. So the Street Profits, for instance, eventually maybe they wouldn't have gotten as... I like the Street Profits and I like Asuka. Let me put it out there just in case anybody's getting the wrong opinion about this. If they would have had a couple weeks of not getting as strong of a reaction, I think that they would have changed the titles on them. And even if they would have gone with something like, well, let's go with Peyton Royce as champion just to try something else, I think that they would have done that. And I think that you would have seen new Raw or SmackDown tag team champions earlier, because if you would have gotten a couple weeks of the Street Profits not getting a reaction, they would have soured on them. But without getting a reaction, they just assume that that's the type of reaction that they want to assume from people, for better or worse. And I don't know, maybe Drew McIntyre would have been in the mix too, you know?
I'm trying to think. There's not really one that's springing out to mind. The one that's stuck in my head for some reason is Karrion Kross.
You don't think he would have done just as well, if not better?
I think people would have crapped on him in the ring. But I think he would have gotten a lot of ring chance. That he's kind of been protected by that side of things, because at the moment, and maybe this is my opinion, he just comes across as an entrance right now.
Oh, the entrance wouldn't work as well either. That's for matter.
No, yeah,
it's weird. True. Like, his first run was great, but after he got injured, coming back, I haven't. Like, it's like the mystique is already wearing off.
I don't even think his first run was that great. He had a great first entrance, and then he had some really shitty matches.
Nobody said Jey Uso. He's another one who wouldn't have, gotten a chance.
I don't know. I think that people still would have embraced the Jey Uso stuff.
Yeah.
It would have never happened. It would have never needed to happen, though. Like, there are certain elements of the pandemic, like we're talking about Asuka to never been champion. Becky Lynch would probably, still be champion.
Well, I mean, it depends on the pregnancy.
She would have gone pregnant still.
She wouldn't have had as much time at home with her fiance, is what I'm saying.
We're going to play that the game of, like, well, if she wouldn't have been as home as often, maybe that one night wouldn't have happened, that kind of thing.
You never know.
There's a what if for another day.
I mean, maybe the Hurt business wouldn't be given enough time to develop as much as they have done, because you know what it's like when they actually do get reactions, and then if anything negative, like Vince will turn his nose up on it immediately and stuff like that. So maybe certain gimmicks or certain feuds have been allowed to extend out a bit longer and given time to breathe due to the fact that there's no crowd shitting on them at any point.
I mean, people would have gone nuts with a lot of these repeat matches, that's for sure. Nobody would have been fine with Andrade and Angel Garza against the Street Profits 106 times. Who are you interested in the most when it comes to getting the reaction from the crowd? Just to see, like, how to gauge what's been happening.
Keith Lee.
Keith Lee's a good one.
I'm expecting it to be bad.
I am interested in McIntyre because I do want to see if largely the fan base that will attend is just like, all right, I've fucking seen enough of this guy. Or if they're genuinely going to give him the reaction he should have gotten. I want to hear how massive the pop for Roman Reigns is going to be. Because they spent years trying to get this dude to be the biggest thing, and he's going to come out like Mr. Badass on April 11th, and the place is going to fucking blow.
Rhea Ripley would be another interesting one.
I think she gets nowhere near the reaction she used to, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I imagine as well. Also, I would be interested to see what reaction The Fiend and Alexa Bliss would get in front of a crowd. Just because they think that that's like the biggest thing right now, and I'm
they're
wondering
gonna get a
whether
huge
the
pop.
reactions.
I
assume they would do. I'm wondering whether it's more ironic.
No, I think people genuinely love this pairing. We don't, because Bray Wyatt, for me at least, I don't want to speak for Callum, I already know how Tony feels, is just never going to be anything. But people love this.
You think they're going to chant Harley Quinn?
Oh. You know what? Maybe I think the gimmick has been going on for too long. If they had done this in front of people to start with, they would have been chanting Harley Quinn from day one.
I mean, honestly, we're missing some low-hanging fruit here with terms of like
Lars Sullivan.
I'm thinking Velveteen Dream.
Oh, I covered that when in a previous question when I said Matt Riddle's they're gonna shit all over Matt Riddle. And Velveteen Dream, if he ever is in front of a live audience, they're gonna eat him alive.
Yeah, Riddle, Dream, Sullivan,
Lars, yeah.
Anybody who has that kind of backstage stuff going on, I would assume it's going to be hard for them not to have some kind of weird reaction. Yeah, Devilman's another one. Not as many other people that are still on the roster right now because they got rid of most of them, right? It was Ligero, Travis Banks. I guess just Joe Coffey.
No, they maintained some for NXT UK at least, but a lot of the main roster ones we've already covered. It's mostly just Riddle and Dream.
Ben tosses out Shotzi will be super over. I think so.
I like Shotzi. Shotzi's cool.
I want her to win that title at some point this year. Yeah, there's a lot of people that I'm interested to see. One that I'm interested, just if not because I want to get some confirmation that this isn't a little bit nuts, is Liv Morgan. Because a lot of people are obsessed with Liv Morgan. And I don't see the same level of obsession sometimes. So I'm curious if it's just like a very, very vocal minority, or if she is like the third most over woman on the roster right now.
I guess in a similar vein, we'll see if all those table breaks did anything for Lana in terms of babyface pop.
Yeah.
It's for Morgan, it's gonna really depend on who's going to the shows. You know, because the live audience isn't always the representation of the full audience. I know that's a really corporate answer that they like to give, but it is true.
As long as they're making a reaction.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of fans go to shows. And maybe we're off base here with Riddle. Maybe only casuals are going to go to the shows and Riddle will be super over.
Well, I don't think he'll be super over based on his character at the moment anyway. So
you're going to see this foot up your ass.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I'm liking I like the Stoner Riddle character, but I didn't dig the whole stomp on the foot thing this week. That's the weakest one out of all of them so far. I do still want a donut, though. Like, they had the whole bronut thing, and I haven't had a donut since then, and I really want some donuts.
Get a donut, Danny.
I want yakisoba. I want donuts. I'm just fucking hungry. It's basically what it is. And I don't have either of them just to, like, grab right now. So now I'm sad. Boo. Anyway, those are the pre-sent in mailbag questions. We got a little bit of time that we could take some other questions if anybody else in the chat wants to toss out anything else, or we could ramble about anything else or something.
Tony made my life last night when he sent me a link stating that Batman the Animated Series is getting a sequel at HBO Max. I didn't even read it. I read the link and it just said Batman Animated Series SEQ, and I screamed because I knew what it was.
Sequence.
So happy. So happy. Oh,
I didn't check the news today to see if it was one of those. It's actually not happening or anything. So let's see. Wait until we get a trailer at the very least. Ben asks what our men's Royal Rumble predictions are right now. Daniel Bryan for me.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan's losing every week, so it has to be him.
If it's not Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton.
Here's where Cain Velasquez comes in.
Listen.
Well, Cain Velasquez is coming back based on what Mysterio was saying earlier.
What did he say?
SmackDown.
Did he say
We
that?
said that was the idea that they had that thing with Baron Corbin, and so it's like talking about that. He's a Golden Gloves boxer. You know who we need to call in, and then they just left it on there, and just like,
Oh, God.
fuck, he's coming back.
God.
Damn it.
Oh.
I mean, look, if they do the two of those, they go do Velasquez against Corbin as 1 5-minute match at WrestleMania over the 2 nights, okay. If it's for some title or something like that, then I'm going to be real pissed. And I like Corbin, so of course, whatever. Peter asks, how's our 2021 been? Frustrating.
Stressful.
I got COVID. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a way to start it.
Yeah, Callum's had the worst out of the 3 of us when it comes to that.
Yes. Yeah.
How's everybody else's 2021? You guys doing okay out there? Hopefully that's the case. Ben says this will be the first Royal Rumble since 2014 without Roman in the Final 4. Was he in the Final 4 for all those years?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And he was probably Final 2, to be honest.
It was Final 2, 2014 with Batista. 2015 he won. 2016 Final 3 with Triple H winning. 2017 was Nakamura?
No, that was 2018. 2017 was Orton.
Orton.
So he was
Final 2.
Yeah, final. No, yeah, he was the last man eliminated. Yeah, by Orton.
The only
last
one where
one
he
with
wasn't the last man
Nakamura.
eliminated was it? That was the year he was champion. Honestly, when he should have been the last one eliminated, because Triple H should have just snuck behind him and thrown him out. But they saved that one for Ambrose. That's the only year since he started being in Rumbles, basically, that he won't be in the Final 2.
Wow.
Roman Reigns has had a god-level career. If you from an accolade standpoint, he's been in. I think the only person who's been in more consecutive main events of Mania is Hulk Hogan. Like, Roman Reigns has accolades that not a lot of people have.
Was he the final 2 of 2019?
Yeah.
He was nominated by Rollins last.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, no, 2020 was McIntyre.
Yeah, no, but 2019 was Rollins. I didn't think Rollins was. I didn't think
Wait a
he was
minute.
the last person eliminated by
Rollins.
Rollins.
No, he had leukemia that year.
Yeah.
So listen, as you can see, I just forgot that 2019 wasn't last year. So
Yeah.
Well, Ben obviously forgot that. But yeah. What do you mean that doesn't count, Ben? He wasn't in the Rumble. Of course that doesn't.
Yeah,
but this one doesn't count either because he's WWE champion, so it doesn't count that he's not in that Rumble match.
The point is, when he's in the Rumble, he's the Final 2.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I can get on board with that.
Yeah. What match do you see main eventing each night of WrestleMania? At this year, I don't think we're getting a strong enough women's match to main event, to be honest. Because if you get like Belair versus Banks, they haven't done shit to build that up. And there's nothing better for SmackDown. And then on Raw, it's a complete mess. So I'm assuming it's the 2 men's world title matches are the main events.
It should be Reigns versus Bryan. You're not going to get bigger than that, really.
And
That'll be
Goldberg
one,
versus Brock Lesnar.
I'm thinking Reigns, Bryan, and McIntyre against Sheamus.
That's not a main event. I like those guys, but it feels like that's not a WrestleMania level match, or at least not like a main event.
I'm thinking they're getting Lesnar back before that.
It's McIntyre Lesnar.
Yeah, I think it would be like McIntyre Lesnar.
You think that? Let's be real. Are you really doing the stepping on the rakes?
Yeah.
I just don't know what else they can do. There's nobody else that's over.
That's the sucky thing. We're not saying like, oh, it's so great, Brock Lesnar. It's there's nobody else.
I mean, McIntyre hasn't feuded with the Thing yet, so there is obviously always that option.
That's when you make the noise, Tony.
Boo.
I was saying boo Aaron.
I'm saying boo.
I'm saying boo Fiend.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Roman Reigns Daniel Bryan and Drew McIntyre versus insert person here. I don't know if it's Lesnar or if it's, Keith Lee.
I mean,
We'll see.
maybe they have some other kind of match in mind that they can do. I don't really know who could fit that sort of scenario, but like,
I mean, realistically, it feels like the people they built up and protected all year. It should be Bobby Lashley.
I'd be okay with it.
There's no reason why it shouldn't be Bobby Lashley. He's a guy who's barely lost any matches throughout the entire year. I know they already had a match with McIntyre earlier, but he's been United States champion for all this year. He should be moving up to the world title scene by now.
It's weird because they're dividing it into 2 nights again. I said this with Wrestle Kingdom this year. I didn't feel like Kingdom was that strong.
I didn't watch it, so I can't comment.
I didn't feel like Kingdom had enough for 2 nights. And WrestleMania and WWE currently, I really don't feel like they have enough for 2 nights to be like, oh, this is so big and so amazing and so interesting. It's like, unless you're going to pull out Edge or Hunter.
Oh, that's what they'll do.
Edge McIntyre.
The night of the McIntyre match, especially if it's something like McIntyre versus Sheamus, the main event of that night will be Edge and Orton.
I guess so.
Edge and Orton doing what though? Like they've moved so far from it. I can't see them fighting anymore.
Well, it'll be last man not standing because they'll get rid of Orton's arms and his legs, and he'll be limbless. Apparently,
do you think
according
that
to that
they can pull off a surprise number 30 John Cena type of situation?
Well, I mean, he was part of that whole WrestleMania advertising package, so. But I'd be very, very surprised. But if they are going to do it, then I'd be for it just because it's something else.
It'd be kind of a good way to get people talking. John Cena comes back, he wins the Royal Rumble, and he's a heel against Drew McIntyre. Just like, wait, what? Like,
He should be a heel at this point. I don't see the point why he shouldn't be. I mean, I think it would be cool if he wins the Rumble and then you just assume it, and then he loses to McIntyre at Mania. Because
who's it more worth putting over? McIntyre or Tribal Chief Roman?
Tribal Chief.
What's the question?
Who's more worth having John Cena put over, McIntyre or Roman Reigns?
McIntyre gets more out of it, but Reigns is the bigger investment.
Yeah, that's probably the way that you'd look at it.
You are trying. Remember, you're trying to draw a crowd. Now it's a very easy argument to make to say just going to WrestleMania is the draw at this point.
Yeah, people are going to go because they just want to go. Yeah,
especially this year because they've not been to anything recently. So
that's why I think you can get away with the Sheamus match because people will just be like, "All right, cool. Like it's 2 friends against each other. It's a championship match. It's a former multi-time champion against a former multi-time champion."
Realistically, you can get away with it anyway because WrestleMania doesn't mean much beyond the name nowadays anyway.
Maybe
it's the one time of year that WWE tries.
Not showing me that so far this year in terms of building up towards the Royal Rumble. They don't care about the Rumble at the moment, so.
Well, remember, it's long-term booking.
Yeah,
you got to look at what's happening 3 years from now.
It's 11 months of not caring has to build up towards a month of rushing things out.
It's all going to make sense in 3 to 4 months.
I think at the moment, even beyond the Rumble, they won't know what at least half, if not 2/3 of the WrestleMania card looks like yet. So
I'll go so far as to say 2 weeks before WrestleMania, they're not going to know what at least 5 matches aren't going to be.
Yeah, then we get your extra Jeff Hardy versus Elias match or something.
God, that's depressing.
Guitar on a pole. Well, they've already done that, so there needs to be a guitar on a ladder match or something.
Pole on a guitar. Switch it up.
Ladder
on a pole. Match. Ladder on a pole match. You got to climb a guitar to get it.
Fuck it, I'd like to see it. How do I pull it off? I don't know. All right, well, I think that's gonna wrap us up for this edition. We're gonna just do some plugs here. Or obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, if you were not able to join us live for this edition and you want to take part in the mailbag, there are two other ways that you can do that. One of them is to send your questions in for the next one, because quarter two's mailbag will happen somewhere around April or so. I don't know exactly how, because plans have to change as far as WrestleMania and everything happens, but the backlog will backlog them, and we'll take around them when we do. Or you can take a part of the mailbag priority tier on Smark Out Moment for the Patreon, and that way you can ask your questions, and we can kind of do them when we're going to do them. But if you were able to check us out live, I'm very, very happy that we had this live chat running along. If you are listening to us after the fact, drop a comment below on YouTube and tell us your thoughts on the things that we talked about here. Tell us your answers to these questions and whatever else you want to drop in the comments. Check out what's happening next, because the Hot Tags is coming up next on this channel. And we'll go over the Mr. Royal Rumble tournament. We'll talk about our impressions of the NXT crop of women that have popped up, if they've actually had a chance to wrestle. I don't think that they're scheduled for this week, but maybe they'll do some kind of like some promos or something. I don't know, about Gigi and what are their names? It's Gigi and Zoe and Cora. Okay.
Yeah, it's Cora Jade, Gigi something, and Zoe Starks. That one's easy to remember.
So that's happening next with the Hot Tags, and anything else that happens, of course, we'll roll into that. And then afterwards, that is going to be the next episode of the Paul Heyman Smackdown podcast. What's up for this week?
So on the Paul Heyman Smackdown podcast on Saturday, there will be the first show following the Royal Rumble, which will see in the main event a return of a big superstar building up towards No Way Out and WrestleMania. Got some blockbuster matches coming up there. Then there's also some matches, some good quality matches to be checking out as well. Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit versus Charlie Haas, and Edge versus Shelton Benjamin. I believe that's the right way around. It's hard with Team Angle; they're pretty interchangeable at this point. But that's the kind of things we're looking at the moment. So yeah, that should be a good episode of SmackDown to review. So check that out. Check out the Royal Rumble review if you haven't already. If you're on the $10 tier or above on Patreon, so you can check that out there. And there is, just check out all the great stuff on smarkoutmoment.com and follow me on Twitter at WeekMeister14.
I'm everywhere. I'm on Fightful.com every day, doing news, doing ratings, doing podcasts. Check us out tonight on YouTube, Wednesday Night War podcast. Myself, Sean Ross Sapp, Alex Pulowski. I'll be handling the AEW side of things. I'm on WrestleZone.com. I do their podcast sometimes. Follow me on Twitter at DudeFelice. Most of you in the live chat already are. If you're not in live chat, I thank you for your time, and I'll see you for the next podcast, for the next Fanboys thing, or the next whatever recording I'm doing with you guys.
Yeah, we got plenty of stuff happening on both different channels here on the Fanboys end of things. Probably the next thing you're going to be hearing from us, if it's not that first episode of the Review to a Kill podcast, is going to be the Mulan fan tracks. So if you are a fan of that movie, I'm going to watch it for the very first time with Rob, maybe with Callum, depending on when we do it. I don't know. It'll depend. And we're going to do that as part of the Patreon. Thank you to Guest 5 for sponsoring that one. That'll be happening maybe Thursday or so. We haven't quite figured that out 100% yet, but that'll pop up at some point over the course of the next few days. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to that channel. Hit the follow buttons and the like buttons and all the buttons all over the place here, except for the dislikes. And show some love over for the Blue Brand as well. But anything that you're doing under a mango tree is greatly appreciated. Follow me at Tony Mango. Check out the wrestling news and Bleacher Report stuff that I got coming up too. I don't know exactly what I got coming up because we don't know as far as like Superstar Spectacle. Is that a thing? Maybe. I'm kind of interested in seeing what the giant Zangier is all about. And we might have something for that. We might not. Pay attention. Stay tuned. We'll figure it out when we figure it out. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.